Hello, it's Nancy Jean, and it's Sunday, and I wasn't really intending to do this, but I've been trying to intend to do this presentation for a while. I've had a lot of material in the background. I didn't put it out as an announced live. I'm doing it as a live because tech support cannot be here to upload everything for me. He's actually about to go celebrate his birthday, and then he's got some corporate training to go to, so I'm going to have to do my shows kind of in this format, and I hope they come out okay. I'll try to give you a little more warning, but this one if you come in, you show up and you want to talk to me, that's fine. You want to make comments, that's fine. But what I'm really wanted to talk about was understanding and acknowledging the energy shifts. Oh, fake holes here. Well, they're here. I wanted to do a thing, understanding and acknowledging cosmic, solar system, and earth shifts that we're going through right now, because I know I'm a tarot reader. That's how I came into this. That's how I attached my energy to everything, and it's like that's what I do. But over the last 3 or 4 years, I've been aware there's some real energetic shifts happening, and so I kind of want to give you a timeline. I understand. I'm going to mention the people that I've heard that talk about this. I'm going to talk about the books I've read to understand what we're doing about this, and this one's a sucker, man. This guy's a big fat book. Not quite through him yet. And other books I've been listening to and people I've been listening to. Oh, I'll tell tech support you wished him a happy birthday. Now, to get up to what I really want you to know, if you don't carry away anything else, I want you to look up on YouTube Changing of the Gods. It's a documentary that's going to start on the 22nd. It's not going to be on a channel like we're used to. You have to go to their website, and I'm not sure I put it in there, but if you just Google Changing the Gods, you'll find it. And it's an incredibly brilliant documentary that's based on Richard Tarnas's book called COSMOS and PSYCHE, except they just took one of the major planetary cycles and they follow a square to an opposition to a square to a conjunction to another square. Now, if you don't like astrology and your head's going to roll off, trust me, I saw the first session of this Friday night. I went to a lecture Tarnas was giving, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant in explaining to us where the archetypes of our gods come from. It's brilliant that it explains into these energy shifts we're all going through, where we're all feeling a little out of sorts at times. We're getting ringing in our ears. We're getting vertigo, a lot of other things like that. It kind of explains what is happening energetically around us. Now, I'm going to do a quick explanation of what's been going on since like 2017. In 2017, 2018, we rolled out, our planet and our solar system rolled out of a cloud in the galaxy that protected us, just like our magnetic fields protects the Earth. There was a big cloud that protected us from a lot of subatomic particles like neutrinos, and there's a whole list of other things. And I'm not a physicist, and I don't want to play one on TV, but there's a lot of shifting and changing going on, and those tiny little particles actually are getting through to us now, and they're changing the sun. They're called cosmic energies. They're coming out of the cosmos. They're changing the sun. They're hitting every single planet in our solar system that we can observe. They're increasing the frequency of storms and energies and how energy just moves through the planet. And that's that upgrade of vibration that we all feel. Because, acknowledged or not, we are all part of the energy that is on this planet. And we need to acknowledge the fact we're part of that energy. Now, if you say, oh, I'm not sure I understand about that energy stuff, if you've ever watched a ghost hunter show and they go in with an electronic field meter, an EMF, that's when they track the energy that's on people in a house, and also when the entities come in, or the ghosts or whatever's there. The other thing EMFs were invented for was to track the energy that comes off power lines. And Kim, go see some of the things I'm going to talk about. It's fascinating. Your question's right on mark. Do they have their own feelings and their own energy, ways of measuring energy. They certainly do. But if you go into a house that's poorly wired, you'll find they're called Faraday box. Well, there's a thing called a Faraday box where they can block all EMF away from you, which I understand is a really strange experience. But they also can create it's called a hot box, and it's where there's a lot of EMF energy. And it will actually make people feel exactly like we're feeling now. Ringing in our ears, being upset. Some people can't sleep. Some people get really, really paranoid when they're exposed to a lot of EMF. And we're all going through that. So if we understand that's part of waking up every day, that's going to help us deal with it much better. And so what I want to talk about is our body, minds, and spirits, and that a lot of what we've written off as kind of, for a long time, humanity didn't pay much attention to spirit, at least Western culture didn't. And we've lost a lot of our own humanity and our own ability to connect to each other from doing that. We're now at the bottom of a 12,000-year cycle, and we're about to ascend into a new cycle. And this is all supposed to come between 2024 and 2025. If you watch these guys, they'll explain it to you. But if you can meditate and be calm inside yourself, that way you can filter out what's from inside me and what's from outside me. And that's why meditation right now is really important to people. I'm not going to leave a meditative session right now, but I can tell you one thing. If you get stressed, you can do a thing called 6 controlled breaths, where you breathe in to the count of 4, hold for 4, and breathe out for 6. Now, you can pick any number that makes you happy, but that's what I do. And if you do that deliberately 6 times, they've studied this at the University of California, you actually change your brain waves and how your brain's perceiving the world. You actually change what you are, change who you are, and it's a way that we can control our own minds, and it all happens through the breath. So, and it helps you guide your heart to a better place. Now, there's a couple of other things I didn't put in the notes, but if you've never seen heart math, look that up on YouTube and see about how much more energy we have in our heart than we have in our brains. And that's why our internal organs are getting so upset by these vibrational changes. And they're not being upset, they're being awakened. It's different. Being upset would be something that could harm you. Being awakened is helping you understand and see the world better. I'm not going to get into potential reasons for suicide. That they're just, I'm not going to do that. Someone asked that question. It's a good question. I talked to you privately, but I'm not going to talk about it live on this show. Anyway, my awakening to all this stuff came when I started working with crystals, and I'd heard that every 12 to 13,000 years, the Earth would go into some place, and the energy shifts were so profound that they could track them in the rocks. So they knew over 12,000 years ago, 24,000 years ago, 36,000 years ago, 48,000 years ago. They could see patterns in the stones and in the crystals that showed we'd gone through some giant energy shift. And people were kind of like at that point speculating, oh, what could it be? And a lot of the material that Rory Duff, who's a geobiologist, he was a geologist and now he's a biologist for the world. A lot of the stuff he's developed to track the energies on our planets. And the most common ones you hear about are ley lines. And they're energetic lines that go all across the Earth. They run in tandems, they run in pairs. And they've got a lot of fascinating peculiarities about them. And you can read about them here. But if you read about them, you'll understand they're kind of everywhere. And they were set up here according to a young man I just met named Johann von Wick, who's repairing them where they've been broken so he can be ready for the big energy shift in 2024. His information's down below too. They were set up when we were Pangea, when we were one big continent before we split up. And some of the reasons they're split up and broken and not functioning quite like they should now is because the continents broke up. There's also been some interference other ways. But we need those lines together. And I did a show with him last week. And thank you to the new people who are watching my channel. I got a lot of new subscribers from bringing this subject up. And Johann it's fascinating what he does. And he goes around and he does it with the higher energies. He envisions them as Michael and Uriel and archangels and Lady Gaia in the Mass from the cosmic masters. And they go around, they find the places that are broken, and they help him repair them. And he does it all around in South Africa, and then all the countries around South Africa. He's done about 150 of them since last September. But those ley lines are very important. So understanding, if you want to really understand what the energy shift's about, go read up on that. Now, the other way you can understand this is if you've ever been to Sedona or to Mount Shasta. These are places, or Chaco Canyon in the U.S. These are places where these energy lines cross, and they have really deep-seated energy. And they're like this all over the world. In England, where they first began to define ley lines at the turn of between 1800s and 1900s, they did it because people began to realize that all the cathedrals were almost on a straight line. All of the sacred places that the ancients had worshipped at, the stone circles and the mounds and all that stuff, they're all in a straight line. And that's because they are all built on ley lines. That's where people can feel more connected, and we can get more connected. So if we understand that, it will be easier for us to connect. Yes, thank you, Faye. Please hit the like button, because if a lot of people like this, then the word will go out to other people. And you can kind of think about the ley lines if you've ever had acupuncture or you've ever had chiropractic work or where they worked with you with acupressure. Ley lines are kind of like the meridians that flow through our own bodies. That's a good analogy to what they are. And when they're connected and they're functioning, you feel better. And when they're kind of messed up, you feel messed up. Yeah, you can feel the energy's palpable. And one of the things I'm trying to do is find out how to find ley lines. Now, I've been using some dowsing rods, and I understand there's a set probably down the road from where I am in this park, and I'm going to go out there one day when I'm brave and don't care what people think about a crazy old lady walking around with 2 sticks doing this. I'm going to go find them and see if I can find them. Ley lines do move. They actually, that's one of the things Rory Duff found, is they move a little bit. They kind of shift with the earth. The only times the ley lines go back exactly where they were before is at equinoxes and solstices, which means on the 22nd of March, if you're near a ley line, it'll be back where it's supposed to be. And they actually grow and expand at those times, which is an interesting idea that I've heard them sort of explained like the crystals and the ley lines are the Earth's nervous system, and it's how the Earth expresses itself, which is why it's important that it all be balanced. If we're really going through the cosmic changes, and I'll get into that a little bit more, our magnetic poles are shifting also. And when I was a little kid, they'd say, oh, this could happen someday, and I always thought the world would flip over, do something weird, but it ends up they're moving quite happily towards each other. The one under the Antarctic has moved up, and it's heading towards the Pacific near Antarctica, and the North Pole is now in Western Canada. And if they migrate the way they think they will, this is something I didn't know, but the sun's magnetic poles shift every 11 years. So scientists have been watching this for a long time, and obviously the sun doesn't flip over, do anything weird. The 2 poles come together at some point on the planet, and exactly opposite that in the sun, another pole appears. And then they go whoop, and they go back where they're supposed to be. So that's just saying. That's what I hear. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Oh, there's a really good YouTube presentation by Heather Ensworth, and I put her information below, and Pam Gregory. And Pam's been talking about this for a long time. And she's talking about how if you understand what's going on and you tie yourself into the energetic changes, it's much easier. Heather does a whole longer things because she's an astrologer who does long studies of time. And she talks about how to use these energies and how to become aware of them. Because if you're not aware of them and all of a sudden everything starts going wonky, everybody lives in fear, and that's the wrong thing to have happen here. This is our ascension. Our vibrations are changing. We are being fed energy from the cosmos to change, and that's the best way to deal with it. So Okay, I can take questions now. If you have any. Okay, in Miami, there's a place called the Crow Castle. Yes, you'll feel a lot of vibrations. You'll feel a lot of changes. I mean, ley lines are not just like little lines in the ground. Ley lines stand up. They actually have, if you can see them, they have dimension. According to Johann, they have some of them have pyramids that support them. And some of those pyramids, if you can see them in the 5D vision, they're up to 30 stories high, which I think is kind of fascinating. And if it's always better, and the reason I'm looking over there is that's where I can see the questions. It's always better if we deal with things from love and not fear. And another name I put in the people to follow or to go look at is Dorothy Morgan. I've had her on my own channel. She's a good personal astrologer. Now, this Changing the Gods astrology is the big guys. That's Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn. And how Richard Tarnas actually followed them through centuries of growth and centuries of when they were squared to each other. And since none of them move quickly, some of their squares can last up to 20 years. Square means they're 90 degrees from each other. Conjunction means they're exactly together. And opposition obviously means that they're 180 degrees apart on the horoscope wheel. And people used to pay attention to the big planets, but most of astrology that we hear is very, very much personal astrology. Well, this is where the personal goes with the giant and the prophetic, and we need to be ready for it. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Yes, one of the things, Rory Duff has a website called roryduff.com, and at that they have a way of mapping out websites, mapping out ley lines. And I found out that there's big ley lines. There's 6 of them now, I think. They're called dragon lines, and they go all over. But they actually go up to a place called Holy Hill, and it's right near where Scott Allen lives and works, and he didn't know it was there. And he went up to the place and looked at it, and he and I talked about it later. He said, I had no idea. He said, I've been driving within 3 miles of this place for years. And he said, I knew there's a big chapel at the top of this hill, but he had no idea. It's the Catholic Church took it over from the Native Americans, which is one of the things that happens to these powerful sites. Those who want to become the victors take them over. And the Indians used it as a place of healing, and now there's a lot of healing miracles through the church that's on the site. One of the things you'll see when you start to get into this literature is that the Native Americans talked about this cycle happening. It was predicted in some of the Vedic literature out of India. The ancients in Europe built their powerful sites on places where now when they go find them, they find there's all kinds of ley lines there, the vortices there. The Templars, this is really interesting. If you watch Rory Duff stuff, the Templars followed these ley lines, and they followed them from place to place, and they built things on them where they found a vortex because they knew it was a powerful place and it could be very helpful to people. One of the things that they found is Rory was scanning the world trying to find big ley lines, and he found one. The difference between a ley line and a dragon line is the amount of power that it is, how wide it is. And there's actually, you can really get in the weeds with ley lines. There's actually 5 different degrees of ley lines. And the dragon lines are the biggest ones. And they kind of wondered what was happening because in 2017, 2018, they started to sense these other 2 dragon lines were coming up. And Rory Duff followed them around. Now, there are groups that are trying to learn about ley lines, work with ley lines. If you go to bringing in the 5th dimension, which is Johann Van Wyck's Facebook page, he's trying to find people that want to work with ley lines or people who are working with ley lines. What's happened since he went more public recently is a lot of people started writing him and saying, oh God, I thought I was the only person doing this. Now he does it with a lot of intuitive action. He doesn't do it with the dowsing rods, but that's one thing I want to learn how to do. I think it fascinates me. I just want to do it. Pendulums are a form of dowsing, and there are people who dowse on maps to find ley lines to see if they're ley, but you have to keep blowing the map up. You have to be able to get closer and closer into Google Earth to see if the maps work. Back to the Templars and going in. Rory Duff went into the Atlas Mountains and he found this ley line that went into the Atlas Mountains, and they were like, I don't know much about the Atlas Mountains, but my sense is they're in North Africa and there's a whole lot of nothing in the Atlas Mountains. And they followed them in and they found an old Templar fort where no one had known that one was at a point where ley lines got together. So they know the Templars used them a lot. And Rory thinks that finding the Holy Grail was really finding these vortices like the ones that are in Sedona, like the ones that are near Mount Shasta, like the ones in Chaco Canyon, like the ones that are in certain sacred spots all over the world. And there's probably a lot more of them, and they're probably going to get more of them and more deeply profound as we need to keep raising our own energy. But the best way to deal with this in these confusing times, and they are confusing times, that's why this thing is called, and what time is it? It's a time when we're in incredible change. And if the predictions are true, the cosmic energy that's bombing the earth right now, which is we're also getting a lot of solar energy, and I know if you follow any of the news about that, solar flares are concerned about because they could wipe out all our electronics, and that may happen. I don't know. But we're really getting swamped with all this energy. We need to be aware of it. We need to not be afraid of it. We need to be meditating into it and welcoming it into our earth, because what it's telling us is that the earth that we think of as just sort of rocks and a place to wander around in is really alive. It just like those planets that move against each other really create energy around us. And the more you understand that, I used to think it was kind of creepy, but the more I've understood it, the less alone I feel. And the more I feel that there is a center to all this, that we are all connected and we're all part of one being. Yeah, there's someone brought up a place in Montreal. And it's Mount St. Joseph's Oratory, I think it's Otary, I'm not sure. But the print is so tiny on my screen, guys, you have no idea. I got 40 of you now. I hope all of you will take this, and I hope you will like and share. Share this with anyone you know who's said to you recently, I'm feeling on shaky ground. You're not on shaky ground, you're on changing ground, and you can place yourself energetically in a better place to be a part of this. And one of the theories that they've gotten from the ancient literature is it doesn't take a majority of us to be on board to understand we need to deal with this. If enough of us are in touch with it and not dealing in fear, we can make a change. That's true, Lauren. I think that's what I've heard too, that they're supposed to stop us from being destroyed by our own energies. But one of the other things that's in all the ancient literatures is we've had advanced civilizations on this earth before that were completely destroyed. And the reason I kind of believe that is because according to my Akashic records, I was there. Not when they were destroyed, I'm not sure. But I was there. And one of the reasons I have been able to know and see a lot of the stuff I know and see is because I've already been there and done that. So I think it's really, really important. I think I'm a sentry out here saying, please, please, please take this seriously. At least look at it. I'm not telling you have to love it, take it home, ever believe in it or not. But if you can look at it and see if it rings true to you, what it has brought to me is a great deal of calm. Yes, if you pick pretty much any cathedral anywhere, it's going to be on a ley line. It's going to be, and it's, COVID is what we kind of blame for all this, but actually energetically, the amount of neutrinos coming into the planet, the amount of other subatomic particles coming into the planet, the fact we were clear of the cloud that had protected us for 1,200 years, went away, are all signs that we really are, a part of this grand cycle. And go watch Heather Ensworth. She did a 40-minute show. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. She said everything I could say and more about how this works. Yeah, and it's fun because it does resonate. And when you find, one of the things that they were talking about is finding your own soul group, finding your own tribe, finding your own vibration. And we can do that in an online community. We can do that to just reaching out to other people we know, or people who are like-minded. I know a lot of the people that I'm seeing names of on here, I hear from frequently, and I really enjoy knowing all of you. And I really have enjoyed being a part of your world and bringing you into mine. And I can tell you that it's working with rocks and crystals is what pushed me into understanding where I am and what I'm doing. And the universe gave me COVID, so I would lay flat in my back and read all these fat books. I listened to Richard Tarnas's book. You can get it on Kindle and get the narrated book. For me, that worked better because his writing is very exacting and philosophical and not what I do. I mean, I do it, but I don't do it that way. So, yeah, I'm just telling you, there are other ways to find this literature and this information. And what I'm leading to is Danny and I are going to use this book. It's called Frequency by The Power of Personal Vibration. And we're going to teach people how to use the pendulum, which is a form of dowsing, to track your own personal energy, because there's a scale that says if you're here and you're here and you're here, you're okay. And when you get slipped to this, you're in trouble. And, I'd wake up some days and I kept a dowsing diary of my pendulum. And some days I'd wake up and I was fine. I tell you what, when I had COVID, it went nowhere. But Danny and I both ended up doing an interesting experiment. We were feeling really good. We'd meditated. We were smoothed out. We were doing the work we do, reading on the things we read, keeping in touch with the other people we keep in touch with. And then both of us ran into some news story that just set it off. And so he thought, now's the time to check my vibrations. His vibration had gone down by 300 points in like 5 minutes. I was showing some friends of mine how to use the dowsing thing, trying to figure out the best way to present it on a screen. I actually do practice these things, guys. And I was up at 1,000, which is really good. And because I was with people I like to be in, it was a pleasant experience. It was a good spot to be in. Well, then I got a scam call. And they called me like 4 times. And I was waiting to hear something from one of my kids, so I couldn't turn the phone off. I was really pissed. I picked it up and I went, hello, who are you? Anyway, this guy and I got into a verbal altercation, and he was from the Philippines, and he started swearing at me in Tagalog, and I said, you are not from the U.S., I am here in the U.S. And he started swearing at me, and he swore at me in Tagalog, which I happen to know some people are Filipinos, and I happen to know what it sounds like. And I said, F you, sucker. And I hung up, and my friend said, oh, do your vibrations now. I had dropped 500 points just by engaging that way. So you kind of learn how to feel and how to keep your vibrations up, because the higher we keep our vibrations, the higher the vibrations will be that we attract to ourselves. Okay. Some days I feel like living in a whirlwind. Yeah, we do feel like living in whirlwinds, and then we feel like we're wiped out. I know that the last moon shift, everybody was telling me how tired they were, they couldn't sleep, and they needed to. Yeah, and it will, being positive and everything will help us all heal the planet. It will all help us heal. Your vibrations go out from you. So, if you smile at someone, and I know that's hard to do when you're out and you're wearing face masks, but, they can see it in your eyes. And it's a time for us to learn. We've now lived through an extreme separation. Now it's a time for us to learn how to build back bridges and really appreciate each other. Yeah, and I'll tell you a person that I also put in my notes below, Dorothy Morgan, who I've had actually on my channel. She's an astrologer. She's doing a thing daily now in the morning where she's throwing astro dice and reading one oracle card. And I've always found Dorothy a very soothing person, and I find if I just kind of catch that in the early part of the morning for myself, that it helps me feel better and feel more alive and feel kind of focus on that positive energy. And let's see. I think your trip's going to be fine. That's going to Hawaii. I envy you. I think Hawaii is beautiful. My parents used to live there. It'll be very successful. Laughter also helps the vibration, and that's true. We can't sit around here saying navel gazing. And not only that, I don't really appreciate navel gazing. I appreciate people that work in groups and try to work things out cooperatively. If you've ever seen Danny Shea's Sunday with Spirit, where he invites you in to help read the cards with him, I think that's a marvelous, marvelous venue to kind of get yourself settled in. Good. And I hope the angels, sometimes we have to go through a certain amount of discomfort to know what it feels like to be good. You cannot, this is the problem a lot of addicts and people who become addicted other ways. I read a really interesting article about how people become happy, and that somewhere along in our moving through life, many of us got the word pleasure confused with happiness. And pleasure really means, pleasure is just something that's quick, that's there. It's like winning at gambling. It's like having good sex. It's like eating a great meal and loving every mouthful of it. But that's pleasure, and it's short-lived. Happiness is something that's really deeper inside of us, and it's something that we generate out of ourselves, incorporating all the good things that have happened around us. A lot of the things that create pleasure actually isolate us from being with other people. Yes, David Hawkins has had a big effect on a lot of the ley lines and geobiology. I don't know, I've not read that book. I know it's out there, and I did run across his name referenced in several of the places I was looking at. But if y'all would like I said, Danny and I are working on a course about, where is it? Where'd I put it? Can't find my, because I put it in a place where it'd be safe and not get wrinkled on the papers on my desk. Danny and I have kind of created this. It's based on my garden, and it's for you to do personal dowsing. And one of the things that's not on this yet, but will be when Danny and I publish it, there'll be a little thing that goes from 100 to 1,000 and say what state of emotional being that's understood to be. And we're going to teach people how to work with that, because I think that's going to be really important in the next few months. Yeah, I've been seeing them when I play the tapes back. I don't see them when I'm watching the tape itself. But the other day when I was talking with Johan, and that was one of my daily shows you can go back and find, he had orbs floating around him, and I had orbs floating around me here. So, and I had them. There were actually orbs. If you saw the worlds where I looked like I was talking to Andrea from the Mars rover, that was a show. It's on her channel, and it's about changing. It's about chakras, and what happened is she went to click the button to say we're going to go on chakras, and she'd arranged some literature. I'd sent her some stuff. We were going to talk about the chakras on our own personal chakras, and then talk about the chakras that are on the planets, which are also part of ley lines and dragon lines and all that stuff. And we had this lovely presentation already, and literally she went over to push the button to turn it on, and the power went out where I live. Not all the power, 25% of it was still here. So my computer screen could run, but it couldn't generate anything off the computer. I mean, my big screen couldn't generate anything off the computer. So what it went to its default, which is to show all the colors it can present. So all of a sudden I'm sitting in semi-darkness, about 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock her time, and she's in light. Well, my son came down, and tech support came running down. He'd already turned all his computers off. He came running down to see what was going on, and we figured out it wasn't just our unit, it was everywhere around us. And I ended up doing the whole show on my phone, and the only light I really had was coming off the screen that I'm pointing at right now, that you're on the other side of. And the colors were the chakra colors, and they were something, and then they'd stop, and then I'd be sitting in, it really looked like I was phoning in from the Mars rover. That's what Danny decided it looked like. And I said, do you really want to go ahead with the show? I have not viewed it yet, but I know I got a lot of nice letters from people saying, thank God you stayed through that, because I learned a lot from it. So if you want to learn more about changing energies, Andrea's done a show on that this week too. I just haven't found anybody that wants to do the show exactly the way I want to do it, and it's a lot to handle on your own, and I don't have people who handle watching y'all talking to me. Oh, bipolar people, get Amazonite or turquoise. That really helps. And any strong grounding rock, any jet or obsidian. But make sure you get obsidian that's been polished, because obsidian can be sharp as a knife. That's what the natives used to use to do surgery. Let's see. And, I really, really want you guys to think about it. To recap what I'm talking about the changes we're going through. There's a new documentary. It's being distributed a weird way. You have to go to their Changing of the Gods site, and I put it in the description below, and you can sign up, and they will send you an email link so you can see it. And it's going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to be broadcast over YouTube. It'll be over a private YouTube channel. As I understand it, since I live in the world of a tech person, anything I can get on my phone, I can put on my TV and watch, which is how I watched Richard Tarnas. He did a recap of what he sees coming in 2022. They had a preview of the first part of this 10-part documentary. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me because I always loved myths, and I always felt like they were stronger than we gave them credit for, and that they can help us understand so much of our own lives. Okay, Vivian, yeah, Vivian's one of my connected people. Yes, he's a very strange, powerful person. I am waiting to be chosen for the next. Oh. Healing stones. Rose quartz are healing, and rhodochrosite is another stone that's really strong for grounding you into the earth of healing. Stones that have pink, a lot of pink or gray in them, those would be good for helping you work with healing if you're in the healing arts. Okay, I've got room for about 2 more questions. But what I really want you to pay attention to is go watch the documentary. I'm going to be talking about a lot. One of the reasons this is one of those things that's just, these are the synchronicities that are happening around me, 3 times in one day, I tripped across stuff about that documentary, and this was weeks ago. And then I got to watch a long interview with one of the guys who developed this film and developed the whole idea. And I went, oh yeah. So then I sent it out to other readers saying, we might want to let our subscribers know this is coming. Because what happens is we find out about these things, we follow them. If you don't keep up with it or don't get in touch with it or don't hear about it, then people say, how do you know that? And how I know a lot of stuff I know is because the universe has presented it to me. So now I'm presenting it to you. No, I was married to a Sag. That was enough. I am Taurus, Scorpio rising. I have a Cancer moon. And my Venus is in Gemini. And my Mars is in Taurus. Well, thank you for all of you showing up. My God, we got 62 of you now. So just a quick recap. Look into the Changing of the Gods documentary if you haven't already. Oh, okay. Tarnas' last lecture is available to the public. He's not a dynamic speaker. That's why I'm telling you, if you get the book, get the audio version. It's much better to listen to it as you're running around cleaning your house. But his connections are absolutely brilliant. And, but the documentary that they had at the beginning will not be available if you watch his lecture. They did put it out with that. But they apparently at the bottom had a way that you could get to see it. Oh, good. I'm glad you got your grid, Judith. I was going to check on all those Monday, the ones I mailed out, to make sure they got there. I have one left outstanding, and I have 2 people I'm meeting with tomorrow to begin to create grids. I'm sorry yours took so long, Judith, but that's one thing I will tell you about. If you get COVID, guys, it is going to drain your energy. And when I would get there and I'd line things up to start building the grids, and my mind said, you're just not here enough. We can't speak through you now. You need to heal. So if you get sick, give your time to heal. And because you won't do us any good. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's your life passage, but I would much rather have you here being subscribers. And I want to thank all my new subscribers and my new supporters. And if you want a personal reading, I do readings with my garden. I do readings with cards. I do a daily reading with Jeffrey. It comes up at 7 o'clock, I think, Central Standard Time every night on my channel and on Jeffrey's. And Jeffrey's doing quite well, for those of you who know that his house got burnt down and he's actually off rebuilding a life somewhere. People can just go on YouTube and put in Richard Tarnas and they'll find him. So I have a lot of problems connecting people to links. Don't go into, it's like a curse for me. And by the way, I'm feeling much better. I have been wearing a heart monitor. It's charging right now. The only thing that the doctor's office called me and they told me that I'm draining it twice as fast as I should. And that's typical for me in medical equipment. So they just said, okay, fine. Well, I'm glad you guys like this, and I really, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and please send this information to friends of yours that you know would be interested that I may not reach. I don't do big screamy politics. I don't get people in fear. All I try to do is help people find a way to get centered in themselves and to be calm and to move forward. And that's the best we can do right now. And because we're all coming to a point where we're going to need as many calm, sane people as necessary. And the only other thing I can tell you is that I feel like, despite what's happening in Europe, that the world is getting to be a better place. And we just need to hold on. Okay, eggs. I have eggs, guys. But the problem now is I have the eggs for the people I owe eggs. They're coming from Wisconsin this week. The 7 people who got heart chakra eggs will be able to get their heart chakra eggs. And for those of you who don't know what eggs look like, where is it? This is an egg, if I can get it unwound from my microphone. I don't know how that happened. This is an egg. As you can see, it's the heart chakra, and it's got malachite and blue lace agate in the middle. And you get a wand, and you connect your own personal energy to the energy in the egg, and it is a way to increase your power. And it sort of plays with whatever your power is. I know there's one person who has an egg who does interdimensional travel, so he uses it for that. I do not know that it will do that. But I have 7 eggs coming, and I've designed all the chakras, but I'm only going to begin to produce the heart and the throat. That's one thing you can do right now. If you could have a chakra egg, and just pick whatever chakra you want, don't pay attention to what I just said, from the root to the crown, which would you want? And I'm going to put this out as a survey soon too. But the problem is, building the eggs is kind of a complicated process. When these guys started with me, they told me they could build 30 or 40 a day. They're down to doing 4 a day. So when I begin to advertise the eggs again and put them up for sale, and by the way, they did not become appreciably that much more expensive. They're just going to be extremely rare. And I have to they're sending me this week, Monday, I meet with them about the timeline, what's going to happen. So what will happen is you order your egg. They have to build it and manufacture it and cure the acrylic in Wisconsin, and then get it, polish it up, and then get it to me. Then I have to get it to you. Where I was thinking I was going to start, from my experience as a reader, people need the most work with their heart and their throat. They're either not letting the world into their heart, or they're not speaking out from their own throat. So those are the first 2 I'm going to do. On the throat chakra, it's got lapis lazuli is the stone that's in it. Then I was going to go to the root, because the root's the other one. The root is the other chakra that I find a lot of people have problems with, mostly because they don't understand it, but also because it's the part of us that where we start, and a lot of times people have squashed on it so much with their words, comments, and energy that we can't survive. So, eggs. I have to figure out how I'm going to price them, because I have to figure out I know exactly how much it's going to cost to ship them. I owed one person an egg, and this woman contacted me every month since May. And when I finally got and approved and looked at that heart chakra egg, I mailed it to her. The heart chakra egg I just showed you was a prototype, and I'm not letting that one go. But, so I'm going to have 3 throat chakra eggs along coming in with the heart chakra eggs. So, and when I have enough eggs so I can advertise them and not have people be incredibly disappointed, and not have them writing me every 3 days, where the hell is my egg, I will let you know all about eggs. But what are the eggs? The eggs are another thing I channeled at the same time as the garden. And I would have walked away from manufacturing this after they almost killed my first fabricator. Literally, she ended up in the emergency room. And then I found a company that works with acrylics, and they were like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal, we can do that. And then they found out making the eggs is a bit more than they thought. And I've had another lovely lady who I did a grid for, who works with acrylics, who thought she could manufacture them. And as soon as I know what my parameters with these other guys, I'm going to talk to her. I don't want eggs coming at me from 3 different directions either. But all the crystals that are in the eggs are crystals I buy to put in them. And they are a very personal product to me, and I don't want them to be misused. But I would not have continued making them if the first 10 people who hadn't gotten eggs hadn't told me, you have to make this. This has to become a reality. And so I'm going to work on that. And some are readers you know, and some are people you don't know at all, but they all encourage me, and they would write me and say how the eggs coming, are you continuing to work on it? It's been a much more difficult path than manufacturing the gardens, but I had control of all the eggs. How much are the eggs? I don't know yet. That's one of the things I've talked to them about. I know basically they're a little more expensive than the lady who is building it, and decided she didn't understand that she was being exposed to the acrylic at the level she was, but I don't want to get caught in the trap I got, because what happened is I had the eggs up 3 days on my website and I sold 40 of them, and I refunded money to the last 20. I had 10 I knew I had for sure, and at that point she was telling me she could do another 10, and then I just said no, and then I wrote them all and said, I will refund you your money if you don't want to wait. And the 7 that I have yet to mail out all wanted to wait, and they've waited this long. Oh, Patrick, they're wishing you a happy birthday.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. He's going, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's going to New York City. He's going to go up with a friend. They're going to go bomb around the city. You know, he's all shotted up and vaccinated and stuff. Yeah, the eggs are very interesting. And when I have eggs, that's another thing I'm going to have to do a show about, but I will explain them to you and what my feeling was about the energies that are in them. No, the eggs are like, you decide what energy you want, and it's your interpretation of the energy. I believe it's like when I do readings for people and they have a friend sitting at the table with them, and the friend said, oh God, everything's right on about that for me. I think eggs are like cards, are like readings, are like everything. They go to the people they need to go to. If I can, and they're up in Wisconsin, trust me, they're working on trying to figure out a way to expand the production, but a lot of it has to be, it's going to be a make as we buy. So if you buy them, then that puts you in line for them to be made, and they're going to be on a timeline, and I don't screw with that. I don't put my second best friend ahead of anybody else, even though she's in the chat today. But oh, you want to see the egg again? Okay. I try not to let it drift around too much. It comes with a cutie pie little, well, it comes with an acrylic stand. This one happens to be on a wooden stand, but I don't know how I can shield this from the light so you can see. Maybe you can see it better that way. Yeah, there you can see it. And it is the traditional, well, it's based on the traditional form of the heart chakra, if you ever see graphics of the chakras. But Alma, who is my designer, designed the chakras, and they manufacture those gold pieces that are in the middle in Wisconsin too. So I'm going to cut you guys off. This went like way longer than Yeah, just contact me about setting up an appointment. You can do it through my store. There's a way to contact me through Squarespace, and I'd love to do a few more readings. And I mean, because that's kind of easier bread and butter for me than. That's what I do when I'm waiting for eggs to arrive. Anyway, y'all have a lovely Sunday, and please follow up on the leads I gave you. We're in the middle of an energy shift, and what time is it? It's time to change, kids, and you're either going to get on the wave or you're going to get lost in it. Rory Duff said something very interesting. He said, if you've ever really gotten caught in a big wave, in a big piece of water, you learn that you can't fight it. You can't figure out how it's going to tumble. You have to ride the wave out, go with the way it's going, and it will put you where it wants you to be. And that's what's going on here. Well, enjoy the rest of your days, guys. I'm going to go off, and my kids are buying me dinner. They're having it brought in tonight. Woo woo. And you have a good day.